There's been so much hype on the internet and even on mainstream television shows about the miraculous benefits of apple cider vinegar that I decided to look into this deeply and help you understand what the truth is, because I think you deserve the truth. So much of this hype is unfounded. Anytime there's a hint of money to be made, it's human nature to try to make some money. So I can't really blame people for jumping on this bandwagon of apple cider vinegar. But in this video, I really want to break this down and tell you what available research we have, what common sense there is out there about apple cider vinegar, and what you should believe in the 7 apple cider vinegar myths that you can absolutely start to ignore right now and stop believing. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician with 20 years of clinical practice, and we're going to blow up the myths around apple cider vinegar in this video. You're busy. You don't have time to look into all the research about apple cider vinegar, to investigate all the claims that are made by people selling actual real apple cider vinegar, and then also the pills and capsules and formulations and powders. So I took the time to do it for you so that I can give you the information you need. Right off the bat, let's look into just the common sense way of thinking about apple cider vinegar. Do human beings have an apple cider vinegar deficiency? Human beings have only been making apple cider vinegar for somewhere between 3,000 and 4,000 years, making it on purpose, that is. And so it stands to reason that if for 99.999% of our time on this planet, we didn't have apple cider vinegar a single time in our entire life, then we don't really suffer from deficiency of whatever is in apple cider vinegar. Are there therapeutic benefits to apple cider vinegar? Now let's look at the research. 99% of all apple cider vinegar research has been done on mice and rats. There are very, very few studies in humans with ACV, and the ones that have been done are very small studies with a small number of participants, and they went on for only a short period of time. So there's not really any meaningful research out there showing that apple cider vinegar does any of the 7 things I'm about to tell you about. And the last one, number 7, is really a stunner, and I want you to understand it's just not true. Now, before I tell you these 7 myths, I want you to understand that I'm a big fan of apple cider vinegar. If you're going to use ACV, I want you to absolutely buy real apple cider vinegar with the mother at the bottom. That's that cloudy stuff. Shake it up before you use it. And then if you're going to take a straight shot of 1 or 2 ounces of ACV, always rinse your mouth out after you do. It's very acidic, and it can start to break down the enamel and the dentin on your teeth if you don't rinse it off immediately. But I'm not opposed to apple cider vinegar. I love it. I love it in recipes. I love it for many different things. I've used it many times for heartburn back when I used to suffer with heartburn. So I'm not anti-apple cider vinegar. I just don't want you believing falsehoods and wasting money and perhaps even affecting your health in a negative manner by believing some of these myths. Now let's jump into these 7 myths. Now, while you're listening to this list, if one brings to mind a friend or a relative who actually believes this myth, you might consider sharing this video with them just so they know the truth. Number 1 is that apple cider vinegar will cure diabetes. There are many people who believe this out there. As I said earlier, the bulk of the research about ACV was done in rats and mice, very little research in humans, and the research studies done in humans, what they actually showed was that if you're about to consume a very high carbohydrate meal and you take a dose of ACV right before that, that it will keep that high carbohydrate meal from elevating your blood sugar too quickly, too much. And the way it does this is it slows down gastric emptying time. So your stomach just doesn't empty as quickly as it would had you not taken the ACV dose before the high carbohydrate meal. Now, the common sense approach to this would be, if you have trouble with blood sugar, don't be eating high carbohydrate meals to begin with. That's dumb. You shouldn't do that. You should be eating a very low carbohydrate diet. If you have any problems with your blood sugar at all, you should be eating a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet. So avoid the high carbohydrate meal, and then all of the research in humans on ACV goes out the window. Apple cider vinegar does not cure diabetes. Myth number 2 is that it causes a significant amount of weight loss. Again, the way this probably works in the very limited human studies that we have is it slows down gastric emptying time. So if you eat a high carbohydrate meal, it's going to slow down your blood sugar spike. Therefore, it slows down your insulin spike, trying to cope with that inappropriate amount of carbohydrates you just ate. That could lead to less fat storage. That's true. But why not just not eat the high carb meal to start with? That seems like the more common sense strategy to me. Myth number 3 is that it prevents heart disease. Now, there's really no research that supports this myth whatsoever. I could see indirectly how if you lowered the blood sugar spike from a high carb meal, therefore lowering the insulin spike, therefore lowering the fat storage, therefore, right, if you go 7 levels into this, then yeah, maybe indirectly it lowers your risk of heart disease a tiny, tiny amount if and only if you're eating high carbohydrate meals. But if you'll stop the high carb diet and eat a ketogenic diet or a carnivore diet, then you won't have to worry about that to begin with. Myth number 4 is that it cures acne or eczema or psoriasis. Now, there's virtually no research in human beings that supports this whatsoever. The human skin is a little more acidic than our insides, and so I think that's where this tends to come from. Apple cider vinegar is quite acidic, not quite as acidic as our stomach acid, but it's pretty acidic. And so I think that people are thinking it's going to kill bacteria on the skin and therefore make these conditions better. Problem is, we're supposed to have bacteria on our skin. It's called your skin microbiome. It's supposed to be there. You don't want to kill all those bacteria, because what you wind up doing is you get repopulated with a more aggressive, less healthy strain of bacteria if you kill your natural bacterial skin inhabitants. So I wouldn't recommend putting apple cider vinegar or anything else acidic on your skin. If you suffer from acne or eczema or psoriasis, then you definitely need to be eating a low carbohydrate diet like I talk about in videos on this channel about those subjects. Number 5 is that ACV will cure high blood pressure. Again, no meaningful human research has ever been done on this. And I hear your argument, yeah, Big Pharma, they can't get a patent on apple cider vinegar, so they're not interested in researching it. You're right about that. I agree. But just because they refuse to research it does not mean that it's actually true. Okay? And in this case, if you have high blood pressure, then you need to drastically reduce the amount of carbohydrates you're eating so that you can get your insulin levels and blood sugar levels down. That's going to help with blood pressure more than drinking a gallon of apple cider vinegar a day. Myth number 6 is that apple cider vinegar will cure or reverse cavities in the teeth. This is really a silly myth. I mean, there's no research to support that. And since apple cider vinegar is very, very acidic, it's immediately going to start breaking down your enamel and the dentin of your teeth. There's no way that it could reverse or cure cavities that you have in your teeth. And finally, myth number 7, apple cider vinegar cures PCOS or polycystic ovarian syndrome. Again, there's virtually no research in human beings that support this. The studies that they do have are very limited by participant size and how long the study went on. Apple cider vinegar doesn't do anything to reverse the root cause of polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is hyperglycemia, hyperinsulinemia, chronic levels of inappropriate inflammation, and then all of the other hormone abnormalities that come from those 3 things. The way you reverse PCOS is to eat a very, very low carbohydrate ketogenic carnivore diet. That's going to make your symptoms better than any amount of apple cider vinegar ever will. If you've heard of any other myths about apple cider vinegar, that it cures this, that, or the other, please put that in the comments below and I'll use that to make a future video. Now again, let me say I love apple cider vinegar. My wife Nisha at Nisha Loves It, she makes a great oil and vinegar dressing with this and olive oil that we use occasionally. It tastes delicious. I don't think there's anything bad about apple cider vinegar unless you're drinking it straight in large amounts. That could lead to loss of tooth enamel, like I discussed earlier. It could also lead to chemical burns in the mouth or in the esophagus, especially if you're taking it in pill form and you don't wash that down with a full cup of water or some other liquid. There's actually a reported case report of someone who took a big apple cider vinegar tablet. It got lodged in their esophagus and caused a burn there because they didn't wash it down with enough water. So the solution to pollution is dilution, and that same thing goes for apple cider vinegar too. If you still believe that it has medicinal effects and you want to take a shot of it straight once or twice a day, I don't think it's a big deal. It's not going to hurt you, but it's also probably not going to help anything that you believe it helps. But please, please always either dilute it in water or some liquid, or rinse your mouth and your esophagus out after you've taken that shot of ACV. Like I said, I used to take this for heartburn, and it would help my heartburn for an hour or two, but I was always conscious to drink 2 or 3 gulps of water right after the ACV to wash it off my teeth and to get it out of my esophagus. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking that subscribe button and the little bell button right beside it, because that helps me help more people to improve their health. If I've helped to improve your health in some way, then consider becoming a patron on patreon.com. There's a link down in the show notes. It's a super quick sign up, and you can throw a buck or two my way so that I have more time and more resources to help more people realize their optimal health. This is Dr. Barry. I'll see you next time.